Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So today video is on NestJS, ReactJS and MongoDB as a database. We are going to implement a CRUD example sample application. So let's understand NestJS and ReactJS application communication. Okay, here few things we have to understand, that is MongoDB is a database to store the data. Nest.js is an application that runs at the server, whereas React.js is a single page application, okay, that runs on the browser with the help of JavaScript. Okay, whenever user requests, the first thing, the React.js JavaScript code downloads onto the browser. Then UI application gets started running on the browser. Okay, to display the content inside of the website that running on the browser, the React.js invokes HTTP calls to our backend server, which is nothing but Nest.js. Okay, so Nest.js, on receiving the request from the React.js application, it will communicate with the MongoDB database and fetches the data and return that response as a JSON object to the React.js application. Once the React.js application receives that JSON payload from our Nest.js application, it uses that data and paints that data onto the UI of the Nest.js application. Okay, this is how communication will go on. First, let's understand what is Nest.js. Okay, Nest.js is server-side application. Okay, here also point mentioning that Nest.js is a framework used to develop the server-side application. Okay, Nest.js built on top of Node.js framework just like Express. So Nest.js nothing but it is a Node.js only. But it is a framework which is built on top of the Node.js, just like the Express, which is one of the famous Node.js framework. So by default, Next.js supports both returning an HTML as a response, HTML page as a response, or returning a JSON like API. That means either it can be used as a MVC application or as a web API application. In this video, we will use it as a web API application. Okay, that means Nest.js application built with models and controllers. There is no view here because we will return simple JSON as a response. Okay, so Nest.js works with TypeScript. Okay, the programming language required to write the Nest.js is TypeScript. Now let's try to set up a Nest.js application into our local machine. Nest.js or Java, React.js or Angular, any scripted language to run or set up in our local machine. First thing, we should have Node.js in our local machine. So search like Node.js download, click on the link, okay, and download the installer and install the Node.js. Okay, so Node.js is required. And here you can see this is the Nest.js official documentation website. The thing we have to look is Nest.js CLI. Yes. To create Nest.js application in our local machine, first we should contain Nest.js CLI in our local machine. To install the Nest.js CLI into our local machine, please copy this command and open the terminal anywhere. Open the command prompt anywhere and paste this command and execute so that Nest.js CLI gets installed into our local machine. Once that is done, this is the command for creating the Nest.js project. Okay, so command is like nest space new space project name. Okay, so anywhere in your system, create a folder with any name. Okay, in that folder we have to create both Nest.js and React.js sample application. So here this is my folder. So in this folder I want to create both the applications. So first let's try to create the Nest.js application. So open the command prompt with that folder as a path. Okay, we know the command nest space new and name of your project, I will name it like React 9 CRUD demo. Okay, and enter. So it starts creating the application. So while installing NestCLI, ask us which kind of package manager we want to use. I will opt for npm, and our application got created. NestJS application and a React.js application, I am going to use one of the most used IDE, that is Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay, so you can download Visual Studio Code Editor by entering Visual Studio Code download in the Google and go to the first link. So based on your operating system, you can download the installer and then download the Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay. So now here our project is successfully created, right? Let me open my project in Visual Studio Code Editor. So to do that, first we have to go to the root folder of our application. This is my root folder of my application, right? So go to that path, okay? CD, name of your project name folder, okay? Um, okay, now to open this project within the Visual Studio Code Editor, simply enter this command, code space dot and enter. See, like this, it will open in the Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay, let's understand few important and existing files inside of it. Okay, first thing is package.json. So package.json is just a JavaScript object or JSON-like object. So it contains properties like scripts. So inside of scripts, we will have commands for running the project, building the project, or testing the project. Okay. Next, we have one more property like dependencies. So dependencies are the libraries helps to run our project. Okay, and you will have one more property like dev dependency. Here also you can see the package references. So all these dev dependency packages are required at the time of development. Okay, so that's about the package.json. And you can see tsconfig.json. Nothing but TypeScript configuration JSON file. Okay, here all the default TypeScript building uh, configurations are available. Okay, that's about tsconfig.json. And now if you go to the src folder, and here you can see the main folder, main.ts file. So this is the entry file of our application. And here you can see the default port number for my NestJS application is 3000. Means when we run the application, our application runs under this port number. But the problem we have for this demo is, for this demo, I am specifying why means React.js also runs under 3000 port number only. That means no two application can run under same port number. So what I will do, I will give some other valid port number, just like 4000 or 5000, any valid port number you can give. So change it, make sure to change it, because 3000 will be used by the React.js application. Okay, so that is about the main.ts file. And here there is one more default file, that is app.module.ts file. So Nest.js is like a module. Okay, so something like if our application is about weather, so all the weather related logic will be one module like weather module. Okay, and some content is like about news. All the news content will be in another module. Like this, we can divide our code into modules. So in that case, app module is like parent of all modules. Okay, so it is the entry module, and you can see in main.ts file here it is loading app module. That means it is our entry module. Okay, and next thing is controller. I have mentioned, right, we will use our NestJS as a API, right? So in the API, controller means a class, okay, that contains HTTP methods. Okay, each HTTP method will be invoked by the user based on their HTTP request. Okay, for suppose here you can see a get hello method. A user can invoke this method only for the HTTP get request because it was decorated with the get. Just like we can have a post request put method and as well as delete method. Okay, that's all about the app controller. So here app controller is a default controller file, whether you can use or ignore it, because based on our functionality, we are going to create our own controller. Okay, and you can see one more default file like app.service.ts file. In general, service file to implement logic with the database communication. Okay, so here our app.service.ts file, it is a default file, whether you can use it or you can ignore it. Okay, that's all about default file. So let's try to enable the debugger into our Nest.js application. Any server-side application, debugging is necessary for the developers. So let's try to implement the debugger. So to implement the debugger, here you can see a button, run and debug, click on it. And here you can see a link to create a launch.json file. So create it. And this is the node framework, right? Nest.js. So select node, debugger for node. So it's going to create a file like launch.json file. So here you can see a add button here, add configuration. Click on it. And here you can select the available frameworks. And here I want to select Node.js colon attach. Okay, only I want to use this. Okay, select it. And it's add new configuration. So remove the default configuration that came with the file. Okay, now this is the debugger configuration for my Nest.js application. Now save it. Now first thing is we have to run our applications in the debug mode. Command to run our application in debug mode, we can look in package.json file. So under the scripts, you can see start colon dev, not dev, sorry, not that command, debug. So this is the command we have to use to run our application in debug mode. So if I open terminal, here enter command like npm space run space start colon debug. Okay, enter. Okay, now our application is running under debug mode. Here you can see the debug listening. Okay, and now what I have to do, I have to add a debugger, sorry, breakpoint. So let's go for app controller. For our understanding, I will add a small debugger here. So if you click on this red dot, if it is like this, that means we enable the debugger. Now to run our application in debug mode, click again this run and debug, and here you can see a attach button. So click on it, and here you can see attached in the call stack, and here top also you can see debugger is attached. Now if I try to access my endpoint, so here there is no explicit route specified. So simply if I call localhost 4000, I should get hit this debugger. Okay, so localhost 4000, and here you can see debugger is successfully hit. And here are some debugger controllers like step over, step in, step up, and continue, and disconnect the debugger. If I click on continue, the flow of request will be executed, and you can see output in the website like hello world, which is coming from my get request of my app.controller. And to disconnect the debugger, you can hit this disconnect button. Okay, that is how we have to enable the debugger in the Nest.js application. Okay, now let's create React.js application. We know React.js is a client-side application and it is a single page application. So let's understand the definition. Okay, React.js is a JavaScript library for creating the user interface component. Okay, so basically React.js is a component-based application. Component means dividing our code into piece of components, means separate file. Each file will be considered as a component. Okay, so React component contains JavaScript function and they return JSX as the output. So here it describing about React.js component. So in general, React.js component is a simple, plain JavaScript function, okay, and it returns JSX. Okay, JSX is optional, but main thing to return from a React component is JSX only. That means the function either can return a simple string or an expression or the JSX. Okay, but in general, most of the cases we return JSX only. So what is JSX means? It is a HTML, purely HTML. Okay, but when it written from this JavaScript code, then it is called JavaScript XML, JSX. So React.js effectively renders and update the components on data chain. So whenever any data in the component changes, it automatically re-renders or refresh the component. Okay, so that's about React.js. So let's try to create the React.js application. So to create React.js application, we should have a command. For that, search like React create React app. Okay, if you click on this website, and here if you scroll down, you can see a command to create your React application. That is like npx space create hyphen React hyphen app space name of your project. So now go to our physical folder where our Nest.js application exists. Okay. Here itself, let's try to create our React.js application as well. Okay. Let me open command prompt again with the path as a this path with this path, and command is npx space create hyphen React hyphen app and space name of your project. I will name it like React v18 CRUD demo. Okay, now enter so that React application gets started to create. And here we can see our React.js application also created, just like what we did for Nest.js. So go to the root folder of our React.js application, and then enter command like code space dot. Then our React application also opens in Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay. So here is our React.js application. Now let's understand few existing files. First thing, I will go to public folder and index.html. So this is the only HTML file that React.js contains. That is why we call React application is a single page application. Okay. And here one thing we have to see, that is a div with the ID root. So whatever content React.js component contains, everything must be rendered inside of this element only. Okay. Next, package.json. We know what is package.json. I have already explained in Nest.js. Same way it will be used here as well. Okay. And next, if you go to src, and here you can see the index.js file. So this is a entry.js file. Okay. So here you can observe some document.getElement by ID, root ID. So this ID we have just seen in the index.html file, right? So by taking the ID, using some React code, trying to render the all the content inside of that div element. Okay, I have already explained it. Everything will be rendered inside of this div element. The logic is here. Okay, and here you can see React.strict mode and app. These are the React component. So for my demo, I can remove this React.strict mode component, and also I can remove this report web vitals. Okay, and finally my index.js looks like this. And here you can see a element, and that is imported from the app file. So that is nothing but the app.js. So here app.js is nothing but the entry component of our React component. Okay, so basically this is a React component. So it is the entry component of our entire application. If I go here inside of it, and if you recall the React.js definition, React.js component definition, it is a function and that returns JSX. JSX means HTML only. The what is difference between JSX and normal HTML means very few. Here only you can see. If you want to use class, here we have to write it like class name. In general, we write class, right? We cannot use class here. We have to use class name. Like that, there are HTML attributes like for. You cannot use for directly. We have to use HTML for. So anything that returns from this JavaScript, we can call it as JSX JavaScript XML. Okay. So this is the entry file. That's all about the default files in our React.js application. Okay. Now to add some styles or to update the UI, I am going to use the React Bootstrap. Okay. So React Bootstrap is a is for React application. It's built on top of Bootstrap because if you want, you can use normal Bootstrap. But normal Bootstrap contains all the classes, right? Everything we have to manually replace into class name, and there are few normal attributes which are not supported by the React. All we have to change. Instead of changing all those things, we can happily use the React Bootstrap, which is built on top of the normal Bootstrap. Okay. So first go to React Bootstrap website. So this is our React Bootstrap website. Here click on the get started, and here we can see the command to install the React Bootstrap. So copy this command so that we can install this React Bootstrap in our React.js application. So open the terminal and install it. Okay, now the package is installed. We have to do one configuration, that is adding the Bootstrap CSS reference onto our index.js file. So here I can configure like import bootstrap min.css file. Okay. Now before integrating or writing some components, first let's run the existing application, how it looks. So the command for run existing application is if you go to package.json, in the script section, you can see start. So this is the script section, you can see start command, right? That is the command to run our application. So open one more terminal here. So enter command like npm run start. So now you can see under port number 3000, our default HTML content of our React.js application is rendered. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to create a menu like this. Okay. Later, I want to create the pages component. Okay. Any application should contain pages, right? So first I am targeting the menu. So menu means it is a common logic. It should come for every page to entire our website. For that, what I will do, I will create a separate shared component. In that component, I will implement this menu so that it will be shareable to everything. So let me create a folder inside of the src like inside of the src folder like components and shared folder. Inside of it, we have to create the our component. So now I am creating our first React component. Here there are some rules. We have to use uppercase letter for creating the React.js component. Okay. Why I will explain. So I will name the component like layout.js. Why? Because if you go to index.js, here component is rendered as an element, app component. And if you see letter is capital letters. So if it is small, then it will like a normal HTML element. So to differ them, React.js make a rule like component name must be capital case. Okay. And we know our component, React component is just a function. So let me create a function that is layout my function name, and it will just return the JSX. So I will return imaginary JSX elements. Okay. These are called imaginary tags. And finally, we have to export our component. Okay. This is my layout component. We have a definition, right? A function that returns JSX. This is normal way of writing component. With the latest JavaScript components, we can write it in arrow function. So arrow function like constant layout and the arrow function and return imaginary text. So both are same. This is latest way of writing the component. So let me remove this traditional way. Okay. Now here I want to render the Bootstrap navbar means menu. So for that, go to Bootstrap website and here in the components you can search for navbar. In this website we can see number of examples and how to use them as well. Okay, here I'm going to pick this blue color navbar. For that I'm going to copy this tags, navbar tags. Okay, so all these are React Bootstrap components. Okay, in a single shot, you no need to learn. Just keep in mind these are like Bootstrap components. That's fine. Later on, through your experience, you can understand what is what and in detail what are the properties, what are the events that Bootstrap component supports. Okay, for now, you can just copy from the website and you can slowly understand them. Here I want to remove this container because I want full length menu. If I use container, what will happen means on right hand side and left hand side, some space will be remained. Okay. I want full navbar so that I remove container, bootstrap container. And here I don't want for now any menu items. And here navbar brand is a component that renders like logo or heading. Okay. I will name my application heading like React.js and NestJS CRUD sample. Okay. So here we are using navbar component, bootstrap component. That means we have to import the namespaces. So go to website. If I little scroll up, I can see the namespaces. So copy this navbar namespace and add here. Okay, so this is the shared component I mentioned, right? So we know app.js is our entry file. So let's render our layout component here. So remove the existing example div and open imaginary tags and add our layout element layout and see our component namespace is imported. Okay. So if I go to my application, now I have to see the nice menu added to my website. If I go, see here, our menu is coming. So content page content should be rendered here. For now, we don't have any pages, right? So inside of these elements, I will add one HTML tag like welcome. I want to display it. So if I reload, that is not showing because I am not reading the content, the child content inside of the elements. To read the child content, what I can do, I can use the props. Okay, so from these props dot children, that is a default property that will bring all the content inside of this element tags. Okay, so to render it, I will add a container here, bootstrap container here. Okay, and namespace is automatically, sorry, not here in the layout. Here I will add bootstrap container here. So namespace is here imported, and let me remove the namespace here imported and also remove the some unwanted SVG. Okay. So container add here and I want to render the container inside of it, the content. So to render any content, okay, I have to use the flower brackets. If I don't use flower brackets, anything I write, the dynamic content will be rendered as a string. So to render the content, we have to use the flower braces and inside of it, my dynamic content is like props.children. Okay, if you don't use this flower braces, this will be rendered as a string. So to render the dynamic expression, we have to use the flower braces. Now save it, and if I check, I am able to see the welcome message. See, welcome message is coming. So instead of using props, you can destructure the properties directly. For that, Open the object and mention the property names. Here children, right? So now I can use children directly. No need to use props dot. Okay, here like this also we can use. Okay, I have given wrong name. Okay, children. Okay, now save and check. Okay, now also coming. That is called property destructure in our component. Okay, so next we are going to create a MongoDB database and we try to communicate with our NestJS application. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel and also please do like the video. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.